see, where to start? Well, I guess I'll start at the beginning. My name is Kocho Shiona, and I've just been chosen to be the headmaster of Academy High School. To be honest, I'm not sure if I really believe this is happening. I keep pinching myself to make sure I'm not dreaming. I mean, the entire nation has been talking about this school for months. The idea of an elite high school that only opens its doors to the most intelligent students in Japan? A place for the most promising men and women of today to be transformed into the leaders of tomorrow. A school built for the sole purpose of being the most prestigious learning institute in the country. It's an ambitious undertaking, to say the least. But the thing that shocks everyone the most is that the school is being bankrolled by Corp. Who would have expected an electronics company to found a school? At first, I thought it was some kind of long-term business plan. Maybe they wanted to build a place to gather the best and brightest students of Japan and train them to be their next generation of employees. But it turns out that I was wrong. Really wrong. And I got to hear the truth straight from Mr. Psycho himself. That's right. I just met the Psycho in person. I'm still shaking. It was like getting to meet Leonardo da Vinci or Thomas Edison. I've lost count of how many things he's invented or improved. I don't think there's a single product in my home that doesn't have the Psycho logo on it. A man whose ideas and inventions changed the world. People like that are only born once a century. Anyway, the reason he built this school, it blew my mind. It's not something he's ever mentioned in public, but he didn't tell me to keep it a secret either. So, here it is. It's his daughter. It's all for his daughter. He cherishes her more than life itself, even more than his multi-billion-dollar corporate empire. He wants to make her dreams come true, so he's building a high school customized to suit her exact tastes. The name of the school, the location where it's being constructed, even the exact layout of the building. Everything was chosen by his daughter. His mission is to make sure that the best years of her life happen at Academy High. She gets to decide who's allowed to enroll, she gets to decide the school's policies, and I'm pretty sure she gets to be the student council president starting from day one. No questions asked. So, not only will this school be a collection of Japan's most highly qualified teachers and most brilliant students, but it's also a giant, shining monument to a father's love for his daughter. It almost brings a tear to my eye. And I'm going to be the headmaster. I'm still surprised I actually had the courage to send in my application. I guess it's because the qualifications they were looking for seemed surprisingly low compared to the qualifications for every other position at the school. In fact, Mr. Psycho told me I was perfect for the job after just asking me a few questions. There's a part of me that wonders if his daughter just wants the school's headmaster to have a certain appearance, or a certain name or voice, or something. I'm not really sure if I got the job because I qualify for it, or because I meet some invisible criteria that I'm not aware of. I guess Mr. Psycho could tell I was nervous, because he gave me a gift. This portable tape recorder. One of his inventions. He told me that it's therapeutic to record an audio journal when you're feeling overwhelmed. That's the whole reason I'm recording this right now. And I gotta say, it actually worked. I feel much better now. You know, this is kind of fun. It might turn into a habit. I can't stop thinking about the last thing he said before he left. He called me Headmaster Shiona. It'll be a while before I get used to hearing that. Oh, wow. I didn't realize how much dust was on this thing. Well, I suppose I should consider myself lucky. If I never use this thing, it means everything has been going so smoothly that I just never feel the need to vent. But something happened today that really threw me off. I wouldn't feel right talking about it with any of my colleagues, but I need to get it off my chest. so maybe recording my thoughts will help. Today, I visited Psycho headquarters for a routine meeting with Mr. Psycho, just as I've done dozens of times over the past few years. But today was different. He was angry, foul-mouthed, and short-tempered. I'd never seen him like that before. He didn't reprimand me for anything, and we simply discussed the usual topics, but the entire time he seemed like he was on the verge of exploding. I was confused and worried, and frankly, scared. His secretary must have seen how shaken I was, because after the meeting, she took a moment to assure me that I hadn't done anything wrong, and that Mr. Psycho was angry about a personal matter. On most days, I would never dream of gossiping about the man who signs my paychecks, but my curiosity got the better of me, and I asked her for details. She didn't know all the specifics, but she knew enough to give me a basic summary. Earlier that day, Mr. Psycho had a furious argument with his daughter, who graduated recently. Apparently, she doesn't want to inherit the company, and she's decided to leave Japan to travel the world. This is absolutely unacceptable to her father, because he's invested a lot of resources into giving her the training necessary to take over his empire when he retires. He had absolute faith that his daughter would inherit his company when the time came, and her decision had invalidated all of his plans, along with many years of effort, not to mention an incalculable amount of money. After a long, heated discussion, well, more like a shouting contest from the sound of it, Mr. Psycho threatened to disown his daughter, and she had absolutely no problem with that. He told her, "If you walk out that door, you're no longer a part of this family." And moments later, she left his office without a word. Mr. Psycho is a man who refuses to compromise and only accepts the results he wants. I'm 100% certain that from this day forward, his daughter is dead to him. The secretary told me a little more about the way Mr. Psycho raised his daughter. Starting from early childhood, she was given training to prepare her for the responsibilities that come with operating a company. Training that became more advanced and intense with each passing year. Mr. Psycho also has a son, but he didn't put his son through the same sort of training as his daughter. Instead, he granted his son a perfectly normal childhood, perhaps out of guilt for what he did to his daughter. But now he's making preparations to rapidly change the direction of his son's life, so the boy will acquire the traits and skills that his sister spent her entire life developing. The strangest part is the exact reason why Mr. Psycho's daughter wants to travel the world. One phrase the secretary kept hearing was, "my sister." Apparently, Mr. Psycho's daughter is absolutely convinced that she has a sister somewhere in the world, and that she needs to find her. But Mr. Psycho only has 2 children, so if she says she has a sister, there are 3 options. She's speaking figuratively, she's actually become delusional, or Mr. Psycho has an illegitimate child. At this point, the secretary decided she'd said too much, and stopped talking. I had a feeling I was starting to tread on dangerous ground, so I chose not to pry any further. Even though I wound up with more questions than answers, at least now I know why he was so angry. Losing his daughter, along with more than a decade of money, planning, effort, must be an incredibly painful experience. But after hearing all this, it'll be hard for me to look at him the same way I used to. He told me that he built Academy High to give his daughter the perfect, ideal high school life. But now I think that was just a cover story. I think he built Academy High and made his daughter the student council president to put her through the experience of being in charge of an organization. The school wasn't a gift from a father to a daughter. It was just another component of her lifelong training, another step in the process of turning her into the perfect CEO. A training simulation. And now he's going to put his son through an accelerated version of that process. Poor boy. It doesn't surprise me at all that she defied her father and ran away from all that. But in the end, it wasn't pressure or stress that made her reject her father's wishes. It was this weird notion that she has a sister. Maybe all the stress drove her crazy. The weirdest thing of all is that when I imagine Mr. Psycho with another daughter, I have a mental image of what she would look like. But I get a headache if I picture her in my mind for too long. Man, really creeps me out. If Academy High was built solely for one girl, and that girl has graduated, what happens next? I was afraid the school was going to be shut down, but apparently Mr. Psycho just wants me to continue business as usual. A lot of the students who graduate from this school get offers from Psycho Corp almost immediately after graduation. So I guess this place really did turn out to be a training ground for future Psycho employees after all. I don't feel angry or sad, just disenchanted. Well, it's an easy job, and I can't argue with the pay, so I guess I'll just stay on my current course for now. Man, even though I know that nobody is going to listen to this tape, I feel way better after recording my thoughts. I guess Mr. Psycho's gift was good for something after all. Thanks for hearing me out, Mr. Tape Recorder. With that said, I hope I don't have to use you again anytime soon. All the different ways it could have turned out, I never imagined it like this. A few days ago, I received an email with screenshots of certain directories on my personal computer. I don't know how anyone could have managed to accomplish something like that, but I can only assume that this person must have been some kind of top-class computer hacker. They threaten to expose what I've been doing unless I meet their demands. Being discovered and blackmailed has been my worst fear for over a decade now, but this person, whoever they are, isn't asking for money. Instead, they want complete ownership of a single room at Academy High. They intend to occupy this room for a full semester, and they have made it very clear that they are not to be disturbed for any reason. I have no clue what they intend to do in this room, but I'm not really in a position to decline. All things considered, this situation isn't as bad as it could have been. They could have demanded an absurd sum of money, and instead, all they want is a room. Their request seemed harmless enough, and there was a suitable room available, so I decided to comply with their demands. Well, it's not like I really have a choice in the first place. They also asked me to make sure that the room has certain equipment inside of it before they arrived. Computer monitors and hard drives. We already had a surplus of supplies like that, so it wasn't a problem. The tricky part was convincing the rest of the faculty not to enter a specific room for any reason, and not to question it either. I spent a long time mulling it over and eventually came up with a cover story that seemed convincing enough to believe. To be perfectly honest, I'm a little proud of it. I told the faculty that a special needs student with extreme agoraphobia wishes to attend Academy High. Because of their intense social anxiety, they will remain secluded in one of the school's rooms, and are not to be disturbed, because it would trigger a panic attack. Teachers will record their lectures when class is in session, and email these recordings, along with class assignments, to the reclusive student, once per day. I will personally handle anything else the student requires, such as meals at lunchtime. Some of the teachers thought my story sounded a little sketchy, and wanted to hear details. Their questions were harmless, but I was sweating bullets, and I felt like I was being interrogated by the police. Eventually, I convinced them to believe the cover story, and the meeting ended with the faculty praising me for being so accommodating to a mentally handicapped adolescent. I felt a little guilty for deceiving them, but it's far from the worst thing I've done. The only thing that matters is the end result. We now have a room which is off-limits to students and faculty alike. The hacker never told me their name, age, even their gender. It's frustrating. If I'm going to be put through such a harrowing experience, I at least want to know who's behind it. I set up a hidden camera outside of the room that has been set aside for the hacker. When I got into work this morning, I checked the recording, only to find that it had been replaced with a graphic of a black silhouette wearing a red wig, along with the words, "Don't try this again." The message has been received, loud and clear. I asked the hacker if they needed anything else from me, daily meals or anything of the sort. They told me not to worry about them, and to simply go about my business as usual. They explicitly told me to pretend they don't exist. It's going to be nearly impossible for me to put them out of my mind when they could end my career with a single click. It feels like there's a slimy creature crawling underneath my clothing, and I simply have to grit my teeth and live with it. Then again, I don't really have any right to complain. Perhaps this is simply karmic retribution for my actions. It's very fortunate that these little therapy sessions were confined to cassette tapes. If I had been making digital recordings instead, the hacker would have a lot of very dangerous information right now. With that said, I no longer feel comfortable keeping these tapes around. They're too much of a liability. I should dispose of them, but it would be such a shame. 30 years of my innermost thoughts just tossed away like trash. It would feel like I'm wiping someone's memory. What was the point of recording anything at all if I was just going to destroy it one day? There was never anyone in my life who I felt comfortable expressing my anxieties to. This tape recorder has been like a close friend who I could trust with my deepest secrets. I know I have to dispose of these tapes, but maybe I'll keep them for a few days. Listen to them one last time. Try to figure out where it all went wrong. Then dispose of them when I've said my goodbyes. But there is one tape that I'm already prepared to part ways with. The tape I made after Mr. Psycho's recent, demands. It's far, far too risky for a recording like that to exist. That one must be destroyed immediately.